Okay, namaste and welcome officially. So wonderful to see all of your faces, and so happy to know that so many people have signed up from all over the world. It's really amazing, and it's exactly the mission of this festival. Heartbeat of Rajasthan. Anyone who has signed up for this festival, I know your heartbeats in Rajasthan too. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. And thank you all for. And really, we've just been on such a journey the last few days. Even just today, we started the day with Kathak. We moved on to Asha's Kalbeliya class. She had us singing for an hour. We all just looked at her like it was not going to be possible. But by the end of the hour, we were singing Punalo together and having so much fun. So there's just been so many beautiful moments in this festival. We had a surprise performance by some local Kalbeliya who were so excited to see Asha, and just so many beautiful things happening. So welcome again to this online conference. I'm so pleased to see the interest in this.
Hi,
Um,
Nancy speaking.
hi, could we, sorry, could everyone just stay muted um, during the conference? Um, so this conference aspect of the festival is really about creating thinking dancers. It's one thing to take inspiration and to have fun and all the pleasures and health we get from dancing, but it's another thing to be thinking dancers. And it's very important for us as dancers interacting with culturally specific dance that we interact with represent people who represent the culture and people who are working with the culture, with the communities. The last conference, the first day, we had a beautiful presentation on Kathak in the Jaipur Gharana. So you should all have access to the recordings. I encourage you to watch it because Rajasthani dance is not just limited to folk dance. There's also an extraordinary history of classical dance in Rajasthan. And Manisha Gulyani ji shared with us so many interesting points about the evolution of Kathak in Rajasthan, in Jaipur. And then we had Himani Joshi, who is running a wonderful folk institute in Udaipur, the Darohar Folk Institute. She gave a presentation on surveying all the different folk dances of Rajasthan. So another inspiration for this festival is to show the diversity within Rajasthani dance, that Rajasthani culture is not just this monolith. Often, like even in government advertisements or tourism department, you see just a picture of Gumar or Kalbeliya as if it represents all of the artistic traditions. But in fact, we have so many different communities who are practicing and performing arts and who are presenting culture on stage and often on a global stage. So that was really interesting to hear the diversity and the variety. And then today's topic is Kalbeliya. And for many of us, it's like this beloved dance form, a mysterious history, and a very popular dance form that, as Ayla so diligently points out in her research, that it's the phenomena of Kalbeliya is amazing, that it's an indigenous dance form to Rajasthan, but now it's taken off all over the world. And with that, uh, some of us, I mean, I really believe that we have a responsibility. So those of us who are performing Kalbeliya dance, Rajasthani dance, we have a responsibility to stay connected to the root of this tradition, the people from the communities, and understand the history better so that we can properly represent and perpetuate a positive future for the community and for the culture. So anyway, thank you all for your support and presence here. It means so much. And I'm just going to hand it over to Ayla, who will be our first presenter. I won't do an introduction, Ayla, but I just more of a personal introduction. I just admire and respect, and from my heart, I am so grateful for really, as far as I know, for the first time, really putting the word Kalbeliya on a academic paper. I mean, in such a way, because there's been mention, there's been reference, but very abstractly, and in so many dance academic circles, your paper is a big reference for many scholars, and it's a very important work. And what I also appreciate is that you are also a human with a heart who has friends in the Kalbeliya community. It's not like this abstract that was done and you're not connected anymore. You are here in Rajasthan, contributing to the future of Rajasthan and continuing with your work with the community. And so for that, I thank you so much. And I am so excited to hear what you have to say. So please welcome.
Thank you so much, Karina. Very sweet to introduce me in this way. I'm not very often introduced like that, but that's really, really well appreciated also from my side. And yeah, so I'll start by testing out and sharing my screen with a little presentation. I'll try to put it into full screen, and I hope I will still see you all because I don't like to talk to myself. Just a second. The bar is in the way. Okay. Yeah, I can still see you. Yes. And can you see the presentation in full screen? You can. Okay. Just a very quick question before I start rambling. Who all of you were already in the lecture of mine? Can you like virtually raise your hand? Okay, so few. Just because, you know, I have these standard presentations, but I don't want to repeat myself. I will repeat myself a little bit because, of course, I'll introduce the community and the dance and all that. That is a repetition, but I'll try to also diversify a little bit for those who already heard a lecture of mine. And yeah, of course, in the Q&A and then with the interactions with Sej and with Aasha and with Rani, we can also have maybe some different questions. So I am reusing a PowerPoint. I didn't make an original PowerPoint. I generally recycle, but I just thought in the morning I gave a lecture for a group of professors from a university in Rajasthan in Jaipur. And they asked me to use this title. And I thought it was quite interesting. And I thought I'll keep it for this presentation. And the title is as follows: A Belgian Researcher's Journey with Kalbeliya Dance Community in Rajasthan. So very often when I give a presentation about my work and my research, I always start by presenting my own positionality, because one of the first questions that is always raised is, why are you doing this research? Why is this girl from Belgium doing this research, right? So that is always one of the first questions, and always something that I have been taking into account when I was doing and when I'm still doing my research nowadays, is my positionality, my relationships with the community, as Polina also pointed out in my introduction. Now I need to be able to move those pages, but that's not. Oh, okay, right. So I have been in the field for a very long time, for 19 years now. That was my first introduction to Kalbeliya dance, not in India, but in Belgium, where I met Aasha's older sister, actually, Aasha, who is with us, Kalbeliya dancer, who is with us in Belgium for the first time when I was 12 years old. I didn't meet her by accident. I also have my own context. I grew up in an artistic family. My father, who you can see in the top, was a circus clown, and we were living in caravans. So as a young girl, I was very attracted by nomadic cultures, let's say, gypsy culture. Gypsy cultures, I'll use that word very regularly. So that's how my story happened. I met Asha's elderly sister in a workshop of a group called Musafir, who was traveling a lot at that time, especially in Europe and especially also in Belgium, because one of the members was married to a Belgian lady, and so they were a lot in my city. And that's where I got introduced for the first time. I looked very different at that time. I had long hair, 2 ponytails. I still remember what I was wearing that day. Very short dress, which I never wore after that because it was so different from what those Rajasthani artists were wearing that I was a bit feeling awkward, and that changed a lot. And so from that day onwards, my journey with Rajasthan started. So my heart for Rajasthan started to beat in Belgium when we had that first acquaintance there with the musicians and the dancers. So for the longest time, I was more on the, let's say, performing side of it, training and dancing with all of the Kalbeliya dancers, including also Aasha and others who came to Europe to perform and then to also teach sometimes and so forth and so forth. And then when I was old enough to travel to India by myself, because my parents didn't come with me, then I started to mainly train and visit in Rajasthan. And at some point, I decided I had to make that decision whether I would become a researcher or an arts practitioner. When you're very young and you have to decide, parents are always like, what will you do? How will you earn money? Then I had to make that decision, and I wanted to go into the arts, but I decided to take an academic career. And not because of the money necessarily, but also because I was genuinely interested in learning more about India. So I studied Indian languages and cultures, and I mainly studied Indian languages and cultures because I wanted to learn Hindi. That was my only reason why I joined for the Hindi. So that's how I started to do research. And when I was studying, my professor said, why don't you do research on the artist communities that you already dance with, because you know them so well already. And that was for me an eye-opener, because I always made that very clear distinction between being a dance practitioner and being a scholar. And at that time, I could really join the two together. And ever since I've been really doing that, I've been both in the academic world and also in the, let's say, in the creative world. So as Kulina pointed out, I nowadays live in Jodhpur. I joined an engineering university, which is quite interesting, where I'm teaching the arts to the engineers, but where I can also still continue my research with the communities in Rajasthan, which for me is the most exciting part. So I live in close proximity to them now all the time. Whereas before I would do half the year here, half the year in Europe. So now I'm here full time, which is very interesting, and for me also a new transition in my life actually to have that living situation. So this is also this is like a like a word chart which I always use to introduce my research, and the picture in the middle is also me being with a group of artists and performing with them, again to show you that I had both of these things really going hand in hand. So my main focus was always on representation and discourse, like how are the Kalbeliyas represented, how do they represent themselves, and how is that interacting with discourses, whether it is local or global or international or within the community. That was actually always my main way of looking at the Kalbeliya dance traditions. And I mainly did that through ethnography and anthropology. So that basically just means participate, be with the community, talk to many people, observe, embody, practice yourself. So that's more or less how I've been working for all these years. Yeah. These are just some pictures also to illustrate more or less how that would look like. But I think for the group here, I mean, this is quite obvious. I think we're all doing very similar things, maybe. So my field work was very important. And again, this course was also looking into archives, looking into newspaper articles. As Kulina was also mentioning, Kalbeliya dance or Kalbeliyas in general were not necessarily mentioned in academic work, but they were mentioned in other places. How were they represented there? How were they described there? So that's something that I would really be very fascinated about. And so I did two very big projects, let's say, well, very big. One PhD, which is huge, still recuperating from that. Very intense, a PhD, and then I also did a postdoctoral project. And so for my PhD, and that is what I've been publishing about the most so far. So I have 4 published articles about my PhD, which really describes the evolution of Kalbeliya dance from the 1980s till now. How did this dance form transform within this recent history? That was my PhD. If you can't find my articles, by the way, you can always email me, because the stupid academic system has this, like protected articles and all of that. You have to pay or have a subscription, but I don't strongly believe in that. So whenever you send me an email, I'm very happy to share them for free. So just after the lecture or whenever you feel like, just send me an email and I'll share. I'm just still not allowed to throw them on the internet publicly, because then these journals will sue me. But I'm always free to send them by email. So that was my postdoc, and then for my that was my PhD, and then for my postdoc, I focused, because this question of my positionality with the community came up quite a lot for myself, but also as an academic. I thought it would be interesting, and also because I noticed that I was not the only non-Indian person working and dancing with the Kalbeliyas, right? As you can see in this room, as you can see by many other products, there were actually a lot of women from all over the world, very interested, fascinated by Kalbeliya dance, also learning, practicing, performing Kalbeliya dance all over the world. And I thought that would be a very fascinating research topic as well. So my postdoc was all about that. Unfortunately, I have a lot of data and a lot of ideas in my mind, but I have not had the time so far to properly write about it. If you ever know of any grant where I can lock myself up in one room for like 6 months, let me know, because that would be the way for me to process all of that material. And I would love to also write about that, because there's a lot of interesting information there too. So I'll try to be as short as possible. It's so much material for me always to summarize for an audience, but I'll be quick. So maybe the first sections I'll do a bit faster this time, because I think most of you are already interacting with the Kalbeliya community. So this is a summary of my PhD. In my PhD, I focused on who are the Kalbeliyas, how did they start their dance practice, which kind of discourses do they fit in, and then lastly, I looked into this whole idea of UNESCO and heritage. And this is more of a policy type of chapter that I wrote about why Kalbeliya dance got recognized by UNESCO and what is the whole idea behind it. So that is, in a nutshell, what my PhD was about. So the main first complicated thing for me, it's a big starting point, of course, if you do your PhD, is who are the Kalbeliyas actually? Is this one community, and where are they coming from? What is their background? Because it was a little bit confusing, especially if you look at historical references, like if you go into archives and all. There is no reference to Kalbeliyas so far. So if we go back, it starts at about the 1930s, 40s, where you have the first references in censuses and all of Kalbeliyas. Before that, there is nothing available. And so if there's nothing available, it doesn't mean that this community does not exist, right? It's maybe they never written about them. But there were all kinds of clues which were a bit confusing because of the use of names, right? So people give themselves names, and then you're not sure which, are they belonging to one specific group, or is it referring to their profession, or what is it actually referring to? So that was the first challenge. So these are all names that we currently very often see if we talk about Kalbeliyas, whether it is in their last name or how they describe themselves, or in historical references. right? So both contemporary and historical. So there is Nath, Jogi, Yogi, Sapera, Kalbeliya, and then nowadays very often they use Gypsy, right? So that was for me already like contextualizing all of these namings and their backgrounds and all that was the first challenge. So for Jogi, and if you're a bit aware about the Indian context and also the multiple traditions in Hinduism and all, this is what we mostly think about if we talk about yogis, right? These ascetics with dreadlocks and all, and yoga and all of that. But of course, there's another big chunk of yogis who are not ascetics. They are just householders, right? And this part of this tradition, this parampara, is very much understudied. Again, there are very few people who actually looked into those communities. Except for a few like this Napi who did a project about that. So the Kalbeliyas very much are, of course, in that householder tradition and not in the ascetic tradition. Then the other interesting part is that this Yoginath tradition is always focusing on lineages of gurus, right? Which is actually very common also in many Indian traditions, not only in the Yoginath Sampradaya. And then depending on which guru you belong to, these communities are again segregated somehow. Now, if you again look only at the academic or even non-academic literature, the published work of it, most Yoginaths are belonging to this Gorakhnath tradition. And then you have a lot of other gurus from other traditions, but you can't find a lot of information about it. So again, for our Kalbeliyas, this was a bit complicated because the only reference that you sometimes find in some literature is the reference to a guru called Kanipa. And Kanipa Nath, according to mythology and also again written sources, was a rebellious guru. Yeah, he was not belonging to the mainstream, and that was mainly because he rebelled against Gorakhnath, the other guy that we saw before. So he was always saying that I have more cities, I have more powers than you. I will defeat you at one point. And Gorakh said, now, well, come and show it to me that you can defeat me. And they got into a quarrel. And of course, Gorakhnath won because he was the most powerful guy. And Kanipa was expelled. Gorakhnath said, you can't be rebellious like this, especially if you can't beat me. You're just an arrogant person. I'll expel you, and I want you to carry poisonous animals. And so this is the myth behind also this whole idea of snake charming. However, it's interesting because this guru, of course, he's not a hero. He kind of ruined his career. So he's also not very much venerated within the Kalbeliya community. So there are not a lot of temples, not a lot of active practices around this Kanipa Nath. This has been revived and pushed quite a bit, especially by Gulabu, actually, which is quite interesting. But in general, if you look into Rajasthan's communities, Kanipa Nath is not very central to their community. So that's also quite interesting. And then, of course, Gypsy, their nomadic lifestyle, and then this adaptation of the term Gypsy, which became very popular, which I will come back to. So then the second question that you always ask yourself is, what do Kalbeliyas actually do? What is their profession? Especially, in more like traditional settings, you always look into communities and then their professions. And so that's also very interesting. This idea of dancers and women dancing was not very much there. And so there was this tradition of wandering around for services, sometimes as scam ascetics or musicians or singers, like what Aasha is still doing, vocals, but the dancing was not there at all. So that was very fascinating too. However, if you look at the current representation of the Kalbeliyas nowadays, it's all that you see, right? It's right in your face. Kalbeliya is always the black dress and it's always the dancer. So there's a huge shift there that happened, right? From nothing at all, from only street musicians, nomadic wanderers, to all of a sudden glamorous stage performers, female performers. So how did it happen? So let me see. I think I will skip these videos because I think you saw Pungi before and a snake charmer before. Aasha can give us a singing demonstration, but this I will show. I'll just show you a video of 2004 and then a later video just to see also again how the dance is continuously changing, right? So what we see here is a very like a smaller group. They're all Kalbeliya artists. They're all relatives of Aasha, by the way. So her older sister is there, and then her cousin and her brother, and so they're all related. So a simple setup, only Kalbeliya artists. There's the pungi, there is dafli, the basic percussion instrument, which is also from the community. And then also their costumes were designed in that way. Costumes changed like from the 80s till now, every 4 or 5 years, there's a revolution in the costume. I think Aasha could also confirm that everybody changes and designs their own costume, and it really changes very drastically. Like a fashion, like any fashion from sport shoes, or, like we have the flower power of the 60s and then the disco of the 70s. And you have that in Kalbeliya costume as well. So there's a very quick transition in costumes, which is happening, and you'll see that here too. So now a video of just 10 years later. Right, so what you see here is a very quick transition from a more, let's say, living room setting almost to a stage version, right? So this is large stage, multiple dancers, many musicians, of which none of the musicians, by the way, here is from the Kalbeliya community. They're all from the Langa community. So there's also this exchange happening with musicians, bringing in different genres. It really becomes a melting pot of what Rajasthan is, supposed to be as a cultural reference. So a mixture of styles, a mixture of artists. The female singer disappeared also, right? So that's interesting. People like Aasha, by the way, I mean, keep on referring to Aasha because we will have a conversation with her. They're trying to revive the female singer and reintroducing the female voice and the female repertoire by Kalbeliya artists again, right? So nowadays, this is like, again, a new introduction to their own culture. Right. So the whole point of my dissertation, and the ones who were already in my presentation before know this very much, and I always keep on telling this, Kalbeliya is a new dance form. It is a contemporary art form, right? Because it was conceived and conceptualized by 3 generations, so far 3-4 generations of women since the 80s till now. It is not a historical tradition that has been going on for many, many years. On the contrary, it is constantly evolving and growing still nowadays. So that was actually the basic starting point for my PhD. And this lady is very central, Gulabu. She was the first person actually who was brought on stage to perform and to actually dance, Gulabi. in 1981. And so she is still very often described as the first official Kalbeliya dancer. She calls herself the mother of the dance very often. Whether that is correct to do or not, that will be for our Q&A, but that's how it is perceived nowadays. So she was discovered in the Pushkar Camel Fair in 1981 by a lady called Tripti Pandey, and she was the director of the department for tourism. She was very young at that age, in that time. Age is a bit, I mean, we can discuss. Sometimes she said 7 or 13 or 14 or so, unsure, but she was still very young. She was unmarried for sure. And she was just moving a bit in her camp just outside of Pushkar. And Tripti Pandey saw it and she thought, I never saw this before. Let's do it on stage. And after a lot of negotiation, because her father actually didn't want her to do it, she did. The family said, okay, she's unmarried, she's young, but she's like a child, so she can do it. And so that's how this whole thing started. Unfortunately, there are very few videos of dance, Kalbeliya dance, of that 80s, 90s period. So that's also why if I show you video now, it's 2004. Very few. However, if you ever feel like seeing Gulabo dance in the 80s, there are like 2 or 3 very short videos in Sangeet Natak Academy in Delhi, which you can go and watch if you want to. Sit there and they will put the video tape and you can watch it, but you cannot get a copy. So you have to really physically go there and watch it. And so it's very interesting. And I'll also, because we're all dancers, right? So I can show you. The only thing she was doing was this. So this movement, and then simple spinning like this, and that's it. 2 steps she was doing, 2 steps, nothing else, right? So it was really a very basic form still of the Kalbeliya dance, right? And after that, many other things happened. Yeah, I just put Ayla in there because it's also interesting. And so what happened after she was discovered, she traveled to America very quickly because Tripti Pandey introduced her to Rajiv Sethi, who was doing this very famous Festival of India tours, where they really focused on creating diversity. They wanted to, so we had the whole classical Indian dance wave, which Kulina was mentioning. So the Indian government was promoting Kathak and Bharatnatyam and Odissi, all the classical forms. And then by the 80s, they thought it was time to diversify a bit because they were also a bit criticized, like, oh, you only have 8 dance forms in India. I thought you were a big diverse nation. So they started to have these focuses more on the folk. And within that context, it was that Gulabi was also traveling abroad. And of course, because of that international exposure, as you can see in the picture, Jackie Kennedy and all the famous people, she really got launched as a dancer. And so very soon, when she had that international global career, she was represented in 2 ways. One as a Sapera, because she didn't have a last name. There was no last name. They asked her, what is your last name? And she said, I don't know. What does your father do? Oh, he's a Sapera. So, oh, your last name is Sapera. And that's how this idea of having a last name as Sapera was introduced, right? So that whole snake charmer idea was represented from that period onwards. And then also the idea of her being a nomad. And then this whole label of gypsiness is came about. Right? So she was adopted into this new industry that was also flourishing at the same time in the 80s, which was the world music industry. And the world music industry really focused on transnational identities. And so not national, not focusing on a national identity, but a more, again, transnational. And so this idea of gypsy music became one of the big pillars next to, for example, Sufi was also a label, because then we could have all of these musicians from all over the world fitting into that transnational box. Gypsy was also very much a label like that. And so many world music marketeers were focusing on nomadic music from all over the world. And so Gulabi as a dancer was very quickly integrated into that whole space. How am I doing on time? I'll show it to you. I think Aasha will like to see this.
Ça, c'était les débuts de collaboration. Les gens, ils étaient vraiment étonnés en voyant ça parce que, en plus, la danse Sapera n'était pas du tout connue en Occident. Donc, les gens se demandaient vraiment d'où tout ça tombait, quoi. Et là, ils ne savaient plus où ils étaient, nous non plus d'ailleurs. Parce que ça se faisait tellement bien, le mélange. On était dans une espèce de territoire commun qui était ni l'Inde, ni la musique gitane, ni la Bretagne, ni la musique yiddish, qui était une espèce d'endroit commun à nous qu'on a recréé grâce à la danse et à la musique. Et les gens, je pense qu'ils se sont retrouvés vraiment sur cet endroit-là. On a créé un nouveau pays pendant le moment du concert. On ne l'a fait qu'une fois, ce spectacle. Tel qu'il était là. On a recréé d'autres choses, mais ce spectacle-là, on l'a fait qu'une fois. Hein, only this time, this program. Hein, after, never. Oui, oui. Donc, on va terminer par un enchaînement de plusieurs danses. Une danse Sapera et puis une danse tout court. Vous allez voir, et donc, Gulabi va faire en même temps une démonstration du type de danse Sapera qu'on fait donc au Rajasthan. Et très souvent, donc, ces danses sont faites dans les rues, hein, lors des fêtes. Et donc, il y a tout un tas de démonstrations qui vont avec la danse que va vous faire Gulabi pour ce dernier morceau. Et merci beaucoup pour votre accueil. C'était la première fois que Gulabi a dansé avec un orchestre qui n'était pas Kalbeliya de sa caste, mais de ma caste à moi. C'était très nouveau pour elle de danser sur une musique différente. Après, c'était surtout, je pense, le côté gitan dans sa danse, le caractère qu'il y a dans sa danse. Et depuis 10 ans qu'on travaille ensemble, je me suis aperçu qu'il y a vraiment beaucoup de liens, une communauté musicale entre les musiques gitanes de chez nous et ici. Je pense que c'est surtout ça qui m'a plu, dans la manière qu'elle a de s'exprimer. Elle n'est pas chanteuse, Gulabi, mais quand je l'entendais chanter pour bercer son petit, la voix qu'elle a, c'est pareil, c'est une voix qui est très gitane et qui m'a tout de suite beaucoup touché. En même temps, nous, la musique qu'on fait depuis le temps avec Gulabi, je pense que c'est encore une autre histoire parce que c'est plus lié à Gulabi et à moi qu'aux musiques gitanes, que ce soit Sapera ou française ou espagnole. C'est plus lié au parcours qu'on a eu artistique, et à ce qu'on connaît l'un de l'autre et qu'on exprime comme ça en musique. La base, c'est nos cultures, mais après, ce qu'on exprime vraiment, c'est qui on est nous. Et comment on a une histoire derrière nous quand même, et elle a évolué, elle a mûri. Et puis, les nouvelles chansons qu'on fait, ça exprime cette histoire-là qui nous est propre.
So I like to show this video because it really summarizes very well how they perceive this idea of gypsiness and how this was also marked. So this is just an overview of all the projects and things that happened, especially in the 80s and the 90s. More the 90s, actually. The 90s was very crucial. So there were all of these groups coming up, of which I think we all know Musafir, or most of us know Musafir, because that was kind of the first group, but many after that followed of the Gypsies of Rajasthan. And this was really not only Kalbeliyas, but many other communities were involved there, Langas, Manganiyas, Bhopas even sometimes. So they were all brought together into this one big banner of the Gypsies of Rajasthan, and they were traveling internationally. That's also how I got acquainted with Rajasthan and with everything. That's how they were traveling in Europe as well. So again, this is the mix of all of that. Aasha is there on the picture. So yeah, so there was this whole idea that was coming up again after the Second World War of looking for a homeland of the Gypsies, very similar to the Jews who had Israel. They wanted to have a home country. And because of all of the linguistic research that was happening in the centuries before, this idea of having India as a homeland was really was becoming a structured idea after the Second World War. So there were a lot of movements, Roma movements, who decided on having this idea of a home country and going back to India. So that's where this whole idea also of finding music in India and dance in India came all about. However, we cannot, there's absolutely zero proof. On the contrary, even that they were traveling from Rajasthan or from Rajasthan only. And what the academic research is proving is that there were multiple migrations from multiple parts of India. And this is really all based on linguistic research. Again, you can read separate papers and all of that about it. So if you want to know more about that, you can ask me. However, nevertheless, there is no academic proof. This idea again became extremely popular, multiple documentaries, among which La Chodron, who most of all I've seen and have been charmed about, and it's an excellent, very beautiful documentary film, very beautifully made, but of course that whole discourse is academically not very accurate. But again, many other films followed and are still following. Let's skip that. It's a little video. Yeah, so the main problem was in India, this idea of gypsiness did not work. In India, people don't know what gypsies are. If you ask many Indians who are the gypsies, they will say, what, hippies? Goa? Well, the hippies are living in Goa. They don't understand this concept of gypsy, the way we always know it. That is a very actually European, because in Europe we are very much interested in that topic because there are so many Roma communities there. In India, nobody knew what they were talking about. So the Indian story took a very different route. So if you look at any of the discourse now in India from the 60s till now, this whole idea of Kalbeliyas being the snake charmers of Rajasthan was very much popular. And this mainly came about through people like कौन है आशा आपको मालूम है कौन है फोटो में just asking if Aasha recognizes
Unnat और अंशी
yes so her family is there ये कौन है black and white में
ये पता नहीं सामने वाली अंशी हैं जो रेड कपड़ों में हैं वो अंशी हैं पास में समदा हैं वो पूर्णात की डॉटर ही हैं और पुंगी में पूर्णात हैं
Yes, so you can see these are all relatives of Aasha. They're all from Jodhpur, and this is because of the guy who's sitting in the black and white picture on the chair, Komal Kotari. So he started a research institute in Jodhpur, studying all of the artist communities from Western Rajasthan, mainly Langa Manganiyar, but he also started to work with the Kalbeliyas a lot. And he specifically worked with Aasha and her family. Mostly with her uncle, Kalunaji, who was the first person Komalda worked with as a musician, as a pungi player, and then his family started, so his wife and her sisters, and then later on mainly her daughters. And then her daughters trained actually Aasha's older sisters, and then Aasha learned from her sisters again, right? So this is how that tradition in Jodhpur started. And I'm just also saying that because we're going to talk to Aasha later. So there were a lot of these middlemen in Rajasthan who were promoting the culture, and they really came up with a very different story, which was this one. So they were promoting the idea of Kalbeliyas not being able to do their profession anymore, which is catching snakes, because it was not allowed anymore, because there was a law that came prohibiting catching of the snakes. And then because they couldn't do that profession anymore, that's why they transformed the dancing of the snakes into a dance of a female body, right? So that is how they portray Kalbeliya dance much more nowadays. So like this. So this is just as a reference point. This is the whole image that they want to create. This all skip.
हमारा कालबेलिया डांस ये है.
Oh, I don't know. I'll show it because Aasha won. आपने देखा है ये आशा?
रिदम होता है और रिदम जब बजता है तो मन में ऐसा लगता है कि मैं एक नागिन और ऑटोमेटिक वो रिदम चलने लगता है, ऐसे रिदम चलने लगता है तो वही डांस होता है. और जैसे ये हमारे कालबेलिया में तो सांप होते हैं, तो उस सांप को देख देख के लड़कियां लहराती है. और जब वो सांप लहराता है तो हम उनके साथ साथ लहराते हैं, क्योंकि हमारे पिताजी वगैरह और मेरे दादाजी ये सांप पकड़ के पहले डांस वांस करवाते थे जब लड़कियां डांस नहीं करती थी. सांपों को नचाते मेरे को भी मालूम. और जब सांप नहीं मिलते थे इनको, तो इन्होंने सोचा कि अब सांप भी सारे खत्म हो गए और इतने नहीं है जंगलों में भी सांप. तो इन्होंने सोचा कि चलो कि फागुन की ऋतु में लड़कियों को काले कपड़े पहना के डांस करते. ये तो हमारे कालबेलियों की लड़कियां तो नागिन है, सांप नहीं है. अच्छा सांप मेरा नागिन है, मचल की सांप नहीं है. वो सांप अपने दिल में.
So for me, this moment was golden just to see Asha's face watching this after a long time and seeing her reaction. So you can very, very clearly see this is a very good piece of video for me, because you can see how discourses were very much constructed, right? And they were told to say certain things, and it became like a very funny story because they were obviously not very convinced about it, but it was for the documentary film, right? So that was a new way of portraying their own dance at that time. So I'll close it off because I can talk for 3 hours, but I think we can also move to Sejal, and then we can also give the floor to Aasha, and we can have more of a conversation type of thing. What I found very interesting is that in 2010, Kalbeliya dance was recognized by UNESCO. So again, we have this discourse shift that happened very much so in 2010, where all of a sudden the government of India put in a proposal to have Kalbeliya dance recognized internationally as heritage, which is interesting, of course, because it is actually a contemporary dance. It's not very old. However, I mean, that doesn't mean that it's not worth preserving, but also the fact that the government picks it up and wants to represent their country with this dance form, whereas before, actually, they were very much marginalized, right? So that whole political shift happened. And then the third thing which I write about in my paper is that despite the fact that they are recognized by UNESCO, what did the community get from that? not so much. This could be a question for Aasha, actually, right? So that is the whole thing that I found very interesting about this Kalbeliya dance being recognized as UNESCO heritage in 2010. Then I went to my postdoctoral project and I looked into all of you people, all of us, actually I should include myself, the international crowd who came into that market and was very much interacting with the Kalbeliya dances in Rajasthan and how that whole dynamics is going. And maybe also, again, we can have that conversation more as a conversation, maybe between Kulina and Aasha and I, and between Sej or other people in the audience, right? So I don't know, Kulina, how do you want to do the transition of all of this? Will you do it, or do you want me to?
Well, first of all, thank you. I feel like, yeah, there's lots. I can imagine there's a lot of questions that have come up in people's minds. Please type your question in the chat, or if you would like to speak your question, you can use the raise hand function. I know a lot of you have your videos off, so just feel free to type in the chat, but don't feel shy because your question is very valuable. So yeah, I mean, I'll just wait a moment in case there are any questions, but we have Rani Sapera here also. Rani, can you put your video on? Oh, there she is. Zoom user. Hi, dear. So we also...
Hello, everyone.
Hi. So we also have Rani giving a presentation. If there are no questions, I think we can carry on with presentation, and perhaps like towards the end we can open it up into a conversation because more things will be stirred up. No? Wow, very quiet group. Okay, no questions.
Can I just ask one thing? Can I ask a question, not to myself?
Yeah.
I just wanted to know, Aasha.
Yes.
What did you understand? I will say it in English first and then I'll do it in Hindi. What did you understand of my presentation? Because it's actually the first time Aasha is seeing the talk of me. आपने क्या सोचा? मैंने अभी इतने बात किया आपके समाज के बारे में.
बहुत कुछ, मतलब क्या कि जैसे आपने सारी वो जैसे हमारी ओल्ड जनरेशन बताई, जैसे 1985 में मेरा जन्म ही नहीं हुआ था. उस वक्त की सारी चीज़ें तो मेरे लिए तो बहुत मायने रखती है सारी चीज़ें, क्योंकि मेरा जन्म तो 1994 है. डिस्कस कर रही थी, और सच में मैं आज यही, मुझे सच बताऊं तो मैं मेरे माइंड से सारी चीज़ें बताती हूँ हमेशा. मैंने पढ़ा भी नहीं अभी तक रियली जो ओल्ड होते हैं ना उनके बारे में भी, लेकिन मेरे आइडिया से जो मैं एक्सप्लेन करती हूँ. तो अभी ये मेरे को बोल रही थी कि आज आपने जो बताया कि सच में ये रियलिटी है कि जब जैसे मेरी मम्मी वगैरह पहले डांस करती थी तो उनके पास इतने स्टेप नहीं थे, और वो अपना घूंघट निकाल के, वो भी पूंगी वगैरह कुछ भी नहीं, एक चंग के ऊपर डांस करती थी. वो भी अपना फेस कवर करके 2 स्टेप घूमना ज़्यादा होता था और कुछ हाथ के 2 स्टेप होते थे बस. लेकिन हाँ, ये मारवाड़ी. हाँ, तो बहुत कुछ मुझे आज भी नॉलेज हुआ है इस चीज़ों का, सच में कि बहुत चेंजिंग हुआ है. अभी ये सेकंड जनरेशन में जा रहे हैं हम लोग.
थर्ड.
हाँ,
मतलब आपकी बेटी है ना, तो ये थर्ड जनरेशन.
देखो उनकी जो जनरेशन थी, तो जैसे मेरे मम्मी वगैरह की, हमारी जो जनरेशन थी जैसे खातू की और उनकी, तो वो थोड़ा चेंजिंग था. अभी हमारी आई तो हमारे में भी चेंज, लेकिन अभी जैसे रानी की है तो इनकी, और मेरे ख्याल से नंदनी की इनसे भी ज़्यादा चेंज.
So just to summarize, Aasha is saying that for her I was just asking her because maybe she had some interesting feedback from, I never know, but she was saying that she saw a lot of things that were there before she was born, because she was born in 1994, right? So she said this whole 1980s things that happened, that was interesting for her also to hear that I mean, I researched it and she saw that, and she was saying that it's very true. If you look at her mother and her grandmother, how they were dancing, how they were just doing a few very basic steps, and how much the dance actually evolved into what she is doing and her generation is doing. And then
if you dance only 3 steps down, 3 steps.
yeah. And then she was also saying she's curious to see how it will go for the next generation. She's talking about her own daughter and like Rani, who are from the next generation, and how the dance will again maybe have a change somehow. So that would indeed be very interesting. Sorry, Pina. I just was very curious because she was listening so much, and I was wondering if she could grasp what she was saying.
Yeah. No, I mean, I could feel her excitement. Like, I mean, to see, she was saying this was before I was born. So, you know, it's her own family history as well. But this is amazing. I mean, to give a presentation about Kalbeliya in front of Kalbeliya with Kalbeliya, it's like, this is the point. This is really the point.
Right.
Thank you so much. So, Rani, are you ready for your presentation? We'll come back to you, Ayla. I'm gonna have Rani speak, and then we'll have Sej speak, and then we'll conclude with Aasha, and kind of it can be more of a conversation. So, Rani, thank you so much for joining us. So I'll just give a very short introduction.
Okay.
But thank you so much for agreeing to this. I was a few months ago, I was at Aasha's house and then came over to Khatu's house, her sister. So Rani's mother is Khatu Sapera, who we saw on the video. Did you see that video of your mother?
Yes.
Yeah. So
my mother was so thin.
I know.
And also a little black.
So young. So when I was over there, I had the pleasure to meet Rani, and she showed me a PowerPoint presentation that she created and she presented to her school about being a Kalbeliya girl. And Ayla has helped her put it together. And I like got tears in my eyes, because for so many of us who are friends with Kalbeliya community, there's so many of our Kalbeliya friends had no education, not able to read and write. And here is Rani giving a PowerPoint presentation, a self-reflective presentation about herself as a Kalbeliya girl. And I think it's just so incredible, and it shows like the next generation, how the next generation is going. So I'm so proud of you, Rani. I want to help you share this presentation with the world, because we have people from all over the world. So
Thank you so much, Kolinachi, that you are believing in me and invited your beautiful Heart Rajasthan Beat of Festival. And I'm too nervous now that how can I explain? Really, I'm too nervous.
we all get nervous to speak, but actually, if you look at all the faces, we're all friends, we're all dancers, we're all ladies.
Yes.
Relax, Rani. Be relaxed, Rani.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you.
We just
and you all are looking so beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, let me pull up your presentation.
Okay.
Okay, can everyone see the presentation and you can see Rani? Just give me a thumbs up. Okay, great. Okay, Rani.
This is third point.
This is third one? Oh, sorry. Okay, there it is.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I thank to Ayla ji and Kalina ji for believing in me and invited me for the festival, and it means a lot for me. Today, I will introduce you all about my Kalbeliya community. So let's get started. Okay, a Kalbeliya girl refers to a girl from the Kalbeliya community, and they are known for their unique dance style and vibrant dance performances and um, colorful traditional attire. Okay, thank you. Okay, why Kalbeliya girl? Kalbeliya girls have gained popularity because of their dance, and they are now famous because of like their unique dance style and colorful costumes and performance, and people appreciate our culture, heritage, and the okay, and the beauty bring to their art. And the Kalbelia's dance keeps them young and gorgeous. And the Kalbelia's girls are very bold by nature. The Kalbelia's dress is stunning, and the women's wear long flowing skirts with mirror work and manual work and beautifully did up blouses. They they also wear like lots of jewelries, bangles, necklace, and they all made by manual work. You see this picture, it's all made by hand, and like this, it's all made by hand. I catch this picture from Google. Okay, so this is Rani, and I'm 18 years old now, and I was born in Jodhpur, and I learned my dance and my culture and my culture heritage from my parents, and especially my mother. My mother's name is Khatu Sapera. She's a professional dancer, as you know, and I also like my mother, and she is a very good dancer, and also my mosi, my aunt Aasha, and my whole family is a very good like dancers. My grandmother, I learned it from her, little bit things that I don't see in my mother, but I see in my grandmother. And it is the generation that I catch in my heart, and like I want to create my community and I want to create my culture heritage, or like I have to do very hard work and keep my community and my culture heritage young. And through my social media channel, I want to tell the world about my community and learn by interacting with global audiences. So earlier, where the Kalbeliya community live in a hut, it called Dera, because earlier we don't have some houses and no, and we don't have lands. There we make a house. That's why we lived in a hut, and because the hut and the deras are in like in villages, so there they like catch the snake and dancing, and then they earn something money. That's why they lived in hut. So the Kalbeliya community is for known dancing and singing. The women's are also singing, and the men's playing instrument. It called the flea, manjira, dholak, and like okay, it's all the flea, and the men's like the play the instruments, and then women's are dancing. And Kalbeliya community is so hardworking, and they were famous now for their beautiful culture.
Is that the last slide, Rani?
Yeah. I'm so sorry if I did any mistake because I'm too nervous now.
Fantastic, Rani.
There is no mistake. You're sharing about what you love.
Thank you.
And you're sharing about your family and your culture, so no mistake. So Rani, like you sent me this video as a promotion for the conference, and in it you shared your excitement about being an educated dancer. And I was so happy to hear that, because the reason I made this online conference is because I also want to see educated dancers from all over the world educated about the dance they love so much and they're performing. So all of us are here because we want to be educated dancers, intelligent dancers. And it's so beautiful to hear you say that. I want to know, I have a question for you. Just how do you feel like, as this next generation of Kalbeliya are getting a good education and have desire for education and getting a chance that maybe the last generation didn't have? So how do you feel like, life is changing because of education? Is there something like you experience that you can see you have a benefit in your life that some other members of your family didn't get the chance for education?
Okay. Like earlier, I don't like dance. Ayla knew, and also my Masi know that I hate dance because I'm too shy girl, and I just love the study, and I don't love dance. Just I hate it. But few years ago, like when I go a dance club or something like a cafe, that I go, and then some like foreigner lady came, and she was like a picture, and then she told me, you dance very well. And then like I thinking she is like joking me, that because I don't dancing, and I just came there because my mom told me, here is no girls and you have to go, because girls are going another programs, that's why you go to there, and you go, just go and sit and come, don't dancing. But I dance because langas told me you have to dance, and only one dance, then I dance. And they are coming and they are dancing with me, and then I like I passionate for my work and for my dance, that I thought it's not good. Like I'm from Kalbeliya community, and I'm proud of my community, and I'm so blessed that I continue dancing with my studies, because in our community rare to see educated dancers. Like my mother never went to the school, but my Aasha Masi, she went to school like 8th grade, right? Or 7th, yeah, maximum. Like she go and
My
not
school
like
is like
neither or
going,
nor.
it is coming back.
And like I'm so blessed that I'm keeping my studies, uh, continue with my dance, and also for like Kalbeliya youth is to hold on to our culture and art, while also focusing and learning and growing by balancing traditions and with new chances. We can respect our roots and works towards a better future for ourselves. and our community. It's about valuing our past and aiming for a bright tomorrow.
Wonderful. You're amazing. Thank you so much. Does anyone have a question for Rani? Or if there's no questions, we'll move to the next presentation. Rani, I hope you can stay with us because towards the end we have a conversation. We can include you in that. So thank you so much. I hope everyone enjoyed that PowerPoint. I enjoyed it so much. I'm just so impressed, and thank you for sharing with us. And this is just the beginning. I know you will do many more.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And also Ayla and Christina and Colina and many people that help me in my studies. And my mother she's only run our household, and we are not able so much that she have like 3 kids and she have to look similar to for us. And Ayla told me that she will help me in my studies, and it means a lot. Ayla and Christina and Colina, it means a lot for me. Thank you so much.
In what grade are you, Rani? Somebody is asking.
I'm in 12th now. My exams are continuing. 4th and 5th March was my exam, and then 13, 21, and last is 1st April.
Yeah. So she is graduating from high school now. So this is actually for her a very important time in her life, because now the big question is, what am I going to do after that? You know, like she finished that. Yeah, so that's a big time for her, right, Rani?
We wish you all the best. Thank you so much. So I'd like to invite the beautiful Sage to come to the spotlight. So welcome, Sage. Thank you so much for agreeing to give us your early morning time. And so I'm trying to remember exactly where and when we met, but I think we met at my school while you were here working on your documentary. And why I'm forgetting is when I met you, I felt like I knew you for a long time, because just feels like our values are very much aligned, and your vision. So just a human introduction. I'm not sure of all your accolades, but I know you're an extraordinary artist and incredible filmmaker, photographer, and just a beautiful human being. So I'll hand you the mic to tell us about the making of a documentary film about Kalbeliya, and what it is like to capture this incredible dance on film.
Yeah, thank you so much, Colina. I'm so happy to see all of you here. I've never met you, but I understand that most of you are dancers. So I am the only one here who's not from that art, but still an artist. So, you know, it's been a very interesting journey for me, the entire journey, actually. I'll keep it brief. But I was introduced to the Kalbeliya women about 11 years ago when I was in Pushkar during Mahashivratri. And the person I met first was Sunita. She's a Raki sister, and she left a very strong impression on me. And she told me all these stories about how she was traveling to Europe and dancing. And it was very hard for me to believe that, because she had approached me to ask me for money. And I couldn't understand. It was such a dichotomy. It didn't make sense to me. But that impression stayed, and I came back a couple of years later to document, just to kind of even get to know them. And I think the thing that has really fascinated me about telling this story is not so much their history, but the ability to adapt to a circumstance and really break societal norms in order to create something for yourself, which is something I truly believe in. My own ancestry and my own lineage is from the Rabari people of Gujarat. So I also come from a nomadic tribe, a wandering tribe, very similar, not folk dancers, or folk musicians, but folk artists. So that was one of the things that drew me the most. But another thing that really drew me, and this, I'll just quickly tell you my background in that. I work as a cultural conservation photographer and filmmaker. I've been that for 15 years. And I've worked with indigenous people all around the world. And when you see a foreigner come into a culture, you see the end of the culture, because there's a lot of they come with their own mindset and they want to, put their own impressions on the culture. And this is not how you should do it. This is how you should do it. And what I saw with the Kalbeliya community was that there were all these women coming from all around the world. And there was this interaction in a way that was beneficial to both. And as a cultural conservation photographer and filmmaker, I have actually never seen this. So that was another part of the story that really fascinated me. But it's been a very interesting journey as a filmmaker, because as a filmmaker, you always want to see your subject in a romantic light. So when I came 7 years ago to document them, I wanted to tell this story, which wasn't really true. And I remember, and this is a vulnerable story, but I can share it because it's from the past and it's not really true for me anymore. I was interviewing Kalbeliya Sapera and Madan Sapera, and I was trying to ask these questions, provoking them to tell me how much they loved being a nomad, because I had this romantic idea that I wanted to show in the film. And, they're very smart, and they were humoring me. They knew that I wanted that from them, so they were humoring me. And then there was this old man in a charpai behind them, and he was like just constantly interrupting them. And he was not mic'd, but at one point, Madan was saying these interesting stories about how much they loved being a nomad. And he was like, "Madam," in Hindi, he was like, "This is delusional. This is our desperation. We don't love being nomadic." And I was like, oh my God, he's ruining my documentary. Like, can he just not talk? He's not mic'd. And that was my first, I would say my first week filming. And that was 7 years ago, very different story. But that's the thing with filmmakers. We want to see our subjects in the way we want to see them, and we want to represent them. And so I realized that luckily early on. And so I had to stop, and I've since come back 3 or 4 times. But it's been a very humbling experience to know that the story you want to tell is not usually the story it ends up being. And, I'd done a lot of research. I'd read all of your papers, so I knew what I was really getting into. But it was really once I started to interview. I remember meeting Aasha. It was such a coincidence. Aasha, actually, it was a complete happening. I had no intention. I didn't go there with the intention of meeting Aasha, but the person whose hotel I was living in knew Aasha, and he was like, "Oh, you're filming the Kalbeliya, you have to meet Aasha." And she was going to fly out that night, I think, to Paris. And for some reason, the flight got canceled. And she was really upset. And then I had just arrived in Jodhpur, and I managed to bag my, meeting with Aasha and get an interview. And the next morning, the flight, she managed to get on a flight to Paris. And I was like, the only reason it got canceled, where was it, Aasha? Somewhere else.
And next day I'm going.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this happened so I could meet you, So everything was happening. But really meeting Aasha, meeting Khatu, talking to Gulabo, and all of them has, it's like, it's as an Indian woman, I've always had this, because Indian women are stereotyped in a way that's, at least growing up in a city in Mumbai, there's this stereotype that I wasn't proud of being an Indian woman. And it really took meeting the Kalbeliya women for me to be like, oh, if Indian women can be like this. And I met the Rabari women and I was like, oh, yeah, there, you know, I was proud of being an Indian woman after meeting the women in Rajasthan. I'll just say that. So I don't know, Colina, if I rambled on, and I don't even know if I answered your question, but
no, keep rambling. It's I just think it's interesting why I mean, so many reasons why I asked you, but I think it's interesting, you know, many of us are dancers. This is a dance festival, but to come from another lens, I feel it really sheds a lot of light on the subject and the, you know, the art form that we're all interested in. And I think, you know, in filmmaking, there's so many considerations that we don't have as live performers, and as, you know, like we're kind of, as a dancer, I feel like we're often focused in that moment of performance, that performative moment, and what the costume represents. And it's kind of this flash of meaning that happens so fast and then it's gone. Whereas as a filmmaker, you're, you know, after spending time with you filmmakers, especially you and Julianne, like this idea of always telling a story and what is the story and uncovering the story, it really helps me to see a deeper dimension of this whole context. So something that I always am considering and concerned with as somebody doing a traditional art form, as you said, a foreigner coming into a very, really originally a very kind of close-knit community, now very much open. What are some of the ethical considerations when we come into a very intimate community and then take a piece of that out and maybe present it out of context? And I know that as filmmakers, you have a lot of time to reflect on those ethical considerations and how to get the interview. Like even that story that you just shared with us, it's really raw and it's really insightful, and I appreciate that, because we also have, you know, these interactions, and we're asking ourselves what, you know, ethically, like how do we navigate this? Did you are there any other examples of like how you kind of unraveled your ethics in this film and how to portray the Kalbeliya? Because as you said, it's very often romanticized. And as Ayla also pointed out, in the music industry, the Gypsy name, this whole phenomena, and how it can easily get romanticized, orientalized, and we can run away with that because it gets a lot of attention. So where have you kind of, you know, gone with those conversations with yourself?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I don't know how much it pertains to dancers, but I'll share anyway that, so back in the days, like as filmmakers, we would be the voices for indigenous people. Bye, Tanya. I don't know if she's still here. Bye. Yeah, you know, as filmmakers and storytellers, we would come in and tell the stories of indigenous people because there was this lack of means for indigenous people to tell their own stories. But it's not true anymore for people in general. Like I see Rani right here, and it makes me so incredibly proud because she's telling her own story. And it's like, this is the dream and this is the reality of today, where you don't need to come in and tell someone else's story. So what I've been doing now is that I'm being a means, I'm being means for people to tell their own story. And that's pretty much what I did with my interviews, where I let them tell their own stories. And of course, as a documentarian, you have the responsibility of getting all the knowledge from everywhere. So if Aasha tells me something about something, a politician, for example, which she didn't, but if she had, I would go to the politician and make sure I get the other angle as well. So what I would say is involving as much of the people in it who are living it in the story. So I don't know if anyone here has watched Killers of the Flower Moon by Martin Scorsese. He made this movie on the Osage Nation of America, and he did like everything he could have. He brought all the Osage elders to get all the cultural references and everything. And yet, when the Osage elders saw it, they were really disappointed with it. So it's like how, so it's very interesting. It's very tricky to tell another person's story. And I think that for me, I just want to make sure that I'm always, everyone within the group is involved. And after I've made the film, show it to them and be like, does this feel okay to you? Because it's a very delicate subject right now, especially with tribes and people, groups where outsiders come and tell other people's story. Does that make sense? Am I rambling again?
No, keep rambling. It's good rambling. Yeah, it makes sense, and yeah, I appreciate that. I know that the work is still in progress. The film is still in progress, but we are all wondering when we get to see it, and I wonder. I mean, I know the process has changed so many times, so please let us know when and where we'll get to see it so we can look forward to it. But I guess my last question is, as you went through all these changes through the process of making the film, as in, like, probably you came with some narrative, as you said, and then that evolved over time after talking to different people. Do you have any, like, for example, Ayla had pointed out, there's these narratives like, oh, we do the dance of the snakes, and there's kind of these fed narratives that are repeated. Oh, like one I've heard a lot is, oh, we're Gypsy. And I'm like, is Gypsy's not a Marwari word? Gypsy's not in this language. And like, no, we just say it because it helps us make money. Like these, we have this layer of narratives, and then you have the layer of like the real stories, and then there's all these other stories that are woven in. What is the narrative that you're sticking with your film? Like, what's the storyline?
I love that. So one of the things I really want to explore in the documentary is, the Nath Sampradaya is a very, very ancient tradition. So I really want to touch into that. So let's say that over the last few years, or maybe 50 years or so, there's been this creation of this narrative. I want to show it in a way where, they're doing this as a means to survive and thrive. And that's okay. To me, that's okay. I think everyone's doing that anyway in some way or another. So I think the narrative is going to be in a way that it explores the ancient tradition, the actual Nath Sampradaya. And then also one of the things that I'm sticking with is the coming together of the Western people, the Western world, and this tribe of women, and the coming together of artists. So the reason I've seen that when the West comes into an indigenous tradition or a tribe, everything is kind of destroyed, is because they're not coming together to celebrate the arts. This is a rare thing that's happening here. So I want to definitely still continue exploring that in the documentary. So it's going to have like 3 different things, which is the tradition itself, how they have evolved, the people themselves, the Kalbeliya women themselves, and how the interaction has helped both sides, basically.
Amazing. And where do we get to see it?
I'll let you know.
Okay. If anyone has a question, feel free to put it in the chat. Otherwise, thank you so much, Sej, for sharing. And I really appreciate your honest sharing. I mean, just really vulnerable shares, and your vision as an artist, and the process that you're in with this film. I'm lucky that I got to witness it firsthand and have conversations as you met, one artist and then another, and then how your plans changed. And yeah, I wanted to invite you also as an encouragement that we're all waiting for your film and we all support you, and we're excited for this to come out because I know it will be an incredibly profound work. So Rani is asking, Rani, you want to unmute yourself? You can ask.
Like, who will acting for the Kalbeliya women's?
Rani, great question. You're going to be one of the people for sure. I will make sure to interview you as well.
Okay, thank you.
Nice. So thank you so much, Sej, for your time, and we look forward to your film. I'm going to move on to our last discussion here. So just a moment. So I'd like to introduce the amazing Aasha Sapera, who I'm lucky is sitting right next to me.
Thank you so much to invite me, dear Kolina ji, and front of me, Ayla ji, and hello everyone. So really today I'm very happy because this festival she's organized wonderful. My English is like this, but I hope you can understand everyone. So today I giving a dance class of Master Kalbeliya and also singing class. So I am a professional dancer, but when I start singing like almost 7 years ago, because this our community traditional song is also everybody is singing. So sometime when I'm listen this song, so I feel like wow, it's like if I can also singing, so I feel like this. So sometime I asked to my father about meaning of song, what is this song and why this song is singing and about what. So always I'm asking to my father because my father is very good singer also, like all our community song like holy festival songs like Fagan, that kind of song. So I am asking first song about a Punulo. When I'm listen this song, I feel very good, and this song is like amazing song. Our community also Gulaboji is singing this song, and also I'm singing this song. So I asked to my father what is the meaning of Punulo and why this singing this song. So Punulo is a one person who is a Rajput community. So about him, this song is singing over Kalbeliya woman. And then first time I singing this song and we record this song in Italy, one Italian band, because I'm just teaching to someone just like Tala, like this. I don't know how to singing, but he say please try to sing this song is very good, and if you singing this song is more good. So I say no, I'm not singer, I'm dancer. How can I singing in front of people and also in the studio is not possible to singing this song. And after really I don't know what is the like he is putting in YouTube this song. I'm just there sitting and I'm singing, I'm thinking this is only for practice, not for YouTube. And we record this song and we made one video of this song, and this when he putting in YouTube, after I know, oh my god, everybody say to me, wow, you are singing very good, wow, your Punulo song. I say, where you watch? And then say in YouTube. After I also watch and I say, wow, okay, I try to singing maybe. And then I start singing our community traditional song all. So today I teach Punmal song to all student and also Kalbeliya master class.
Thank you. So Ayla, you want to
Yeah, maybe I'll contextualize a little bit what Aasha was saying. That might be helpful. So I think Asha, वो जो आपके गाने हैं ना वो Kalbeliya के वो can you I'll say it in English so the other people also understand because your English is very good so why do I need to translate even?
नहीं आप बोल बोलो
No,
आप
the Kalbeliya songs. Can you tell something about the language? Because
मारवाड़ी
no, but it's very old language. No, the most Kalbeliya songs are in very old Marwari. No.
एक्चुअली क्या होता है ना कि कुछ कुछ वर्ड होते हैं ना तो मुझे भी समझ में नहीं आते हैं जैसे लालूसा का गाना है तो हाँ जी मारा लालूसा हक नोरो जोरे लालू दक नोरो चोड़ीरा बायरियो जोरे लालू बाजे रे I also don't know before what is this meaning of aknoro daknoro. ये पुरानी लैंग्वेज थी कि उत्तर पूर्व पश्चिम से हवाएं चल रही हैं तो वो इस तरीके से गाते थे अकनौरो दकनौरो बायरी यानी हवा चल रही है बहुत चेंजिंग थोड़े वर्ड थे सुनने में भी हमें समझ में कम आते थे
Correct. So the most of the Kalbeliya songs are in an older language. So even I mean, like the younger generation very often doesn't understand. Other communities don't understand, but they do have a very large and vast repertoire actually, and they're very well known for it. So, for example, again, Komal Kutari, the researcher that we saw in the picture, he was very fascinated about the Kalbeliya songs because the repertoire is very different from other communities. What they're singing about and also the language is very particular. So Asha, can you tell us how did you learn how to sing?
मैं बता रही हूँ ना कि मुझे सच में पहले मुझे नहीं पता था कि मैं क्या करूँ सिंगिंग को लेके लॉकडाउन से पहले जब एक्चुअली मेरा जब डिवोर्स हुआ था ना तो मैं थोड़ा डिप्रेशन में चली गई थी बहुत मुझे थोड़ा दुख हो रहा था तो मुझे जैसे कि खुशी ढूंढना कुछ चीज़ में व्यस्त हो जाना मुझे ऐसा लग रहा कि नंदनी नहीं होगी तो मुझे सुसाइड करना पड़ जाएगा नंदनी मेरे पास है 6 महीने की बच्ची तो मैं क्या करूं उस टाइम कुछ समझ में नहीं आता था तो मेरे मनोरंजन के लिए मैंने किसी भजन आर्टिस्ट से कांटेक्ट किया कि आप मुझे कुछ भजन वगैरह सिखाओ तो वो बोलने लगे कि भजन सिखा देंगे तो वो कंटिन्यू 1 महीना मेरे घर आए भजन सिखाया लेकिन भजन में मैं सोचती थी कि मैं भजन कैसे करूँगी मैं कालबेलिया फोक डांसर हूँ तो मैं भजनों में कैसे जाऊँगी लेकिन मुझे हाँ भजन संध्या के फिर मैंने सोचा कि नहीं मुझे कालबेलिया कम्युनिटी के कुछ गाने सीखने चाहिए जिससे मुझे लगता है कि कुछ गाने ऐसे दर्द भरे हैं जिसे सुनकर मुझे रोना पड़ रहा है तो इसीलिए फिर मैंने कुछ गाने ऐसे सुने तो मुझे लगा कि मैं भी गाऊंगी गाने जैसे बैरागी है तो वो दुख के अंदर गाया जाता है जैसे किसी को दुख होता है तो मैं तो ऑलरेडी डिवोर्स और बच्ची तो उस दुख में मेरे को गाना ही दिख रहा था और कुछ नहीं
I translate for you. So Asha is saying that she was having a bit of a hard time because she divorced, so she had a I mean in India in Rajasthan divorcing is not so easy. It's not I mean it's quite heavy on mental health also, and so she really had to find a way to have another way of digesting that whole thing that happened, and that's when she started to sing actually because of that depression, and she started by learning bhajans. So bhajans are actually let's say more spiritual songs from India, quite repetitive also, and I mean it brings you in that mood. And so she started to learn that. So she asked a teacher of bhajan songs to come at her place and teach her to sing. And that's how she trained her voice a little bit, but then very soon after she discovered that maybe I should not sing bhajans because I mean it's not from my community, and also I can't really do anything with it if it's not to heal myself. Then I should go back to the songs of my own community, and that's how that transition happened. So she actually started by singing bhajans, which is quite interesting, I think. And then you were learning mainly from your father, right?
यस, मैं हमेशा उनसे पूछती थी कि पापा मुझे ये गाना अच्छा लगता है, क्या मतलब है मुझे बताओ। तो पापा मुझे लिरिक्स बताते थे और मैं लिखती थी। फिर मैं घर पे ना सब लड़कियों को बिठाती थी और गाने गाती थी। तो सब लोग मुझे बोलते थे कि पता नहीं ये दिन भर क्या करती है, क्यों गाने गाती है। सब लोग ऐसे ही सोचते थे कि क्यों गाने गाती है। मैं सब बच्चों को बुलाती थी कि आप भी आओ इधर करो। तो सब लड़कियां बोलती थी ओके मासी मैं भी गाऊंगी, तुम्हारे साथ मैं भी गाऊंगी। मैंने कहा चलो सब प्रैक्टिस करते हैं। तो फिर ऐसे मेरे को सिंगिंग में बहुत ज़्यादा इंटरेस्टिंग हो गया।
So she learned mainly from her father. She was writing down the lyrics and then she would practice at home, but she didn't want to practice by herself. So she was always telling all of the other ladies in the house, like, come and sing with me, come and sing with me. Actually, it makes sense because the way Kalbeliya women sing is always, they always sing together, right? Very often with 2 or 3 singers. That also traditionally, that's how they used to sing. It was never a solo sing, it was always in a group. And so that's how she practiced with the other women singing and also training her voice. It was quite interesting.
जैसे ओल्ड समय में सब औरतें साथ गाती थी, लेकिन अभी हम लोग सिटी में रहते हैं ना, तो थोड़ा शौक होता है। अगर मैं कुछ नया करूंगी ना, तो वो सब लोग ऐसे शॉक्ड होंगे कि क्या कर रही है, क्यों कर रही है, ऐसा।
Yeah. They were all a bit shocked that she was doing this new thing. But before, traditionally, she was repeating what I already said. Women were singing together. It was a communal thing to do, right? It was not a solo performance. And so, men in the Kalbeliya community, by the way, sing very differently, especially also her father. They have very special technique and way of singing, which we actually never see so often because they never perform, right? But they do it at home, and for especially during Holi, which is coming up now. This is very commonly done. The man singing with the big duffs, and is it like how is your father singing, Aasha? Can you explain? How is his voice?
It's like very high pitch, like pagan if he's singing, like I tried.
They always call it the crazy singing, but it's very interesting actually.
Really, I'm singing like my scale is what I sing in my scale, but my father is more high singing, so it's for me it's very difficult little. Because singing very high like this.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. And only done during that month.
Now he's already 75, but sometime he have like
eating problem.
ऐसी हो जाती है ना, तो पापा को बोलते कि आप गाओ, मुझे अच्छा लगता है। तो वो कभी गाकर मुझे सुनाते हैं ना अभी भी, तो मैं मतलब बहुत इमोशनल हो जाती हूँ। फिर कभी रोती हूँ और सोचती हूँ कि कितना अच्छा ये गा रहे हैं।
Yeah, she gets emotional even when her father is singing because he's singing so well. So, Aasha, the younger generation of boys, are they also singing? No, right?
कोई इतना इंटरेस्ट भी नहीं लेता है अभी, बस अपने स्कूल्स में ज़्यादा, जैसे रानी हैं तो रानी की कहानी है कि वो स्कूल में इंटरेस्ट। लेकिन अभी ऐसा होता है कि हम लोग सोचते हैं कि इस कल्चर को अलाइव रखे, इस डांस को अलाइव रखे, कालबेलिया कम्युनिटी को, बट अभी की जनरेशन बिल्कुल भी इंटरेस्ट नहीं है। वो अभी की जनरेशन ये भी नहीं सोचते कि हम लोग म्यूजिशियंस बने या हम लोग डांसर्स बने। जैसे अभी मेरी बेटी है तो वो मुझे बोलती है, उसको सब पसंद है, जैसे डांस करना, सिंगिंग करना, सब, बट वो मुझे बोलती है आई वांट टू बी डॉक्टर।
So now there's this tension, of course, between carrying on the tradition, which means becoming either a professional musician or a dancer and taking the art forward, and then getting educated. And what the biggest challenges right now in the community, and not only the Kalbeliya community, by the way, is like, if we get educated, then what happens to our art? Because if you get the education, then very often you will take up another profession. And then that art form disappears, right? So to find that balance between having a good education, and that is very much Rani ki kahani, what Aasha was saying, and the story of Rani as well, where she really rejected dance in the beginning because she was like, "This, I will never have a future." if I become a dancer like my mom, because of course the younger generation sees the struggle of the parents and the aunts and all, traveling all the time, very irregular hours, very tiring jobs, not always stable money, and all of that. So they, of course, would want to go somewhere else. But then that art form is lost as well. So, and if we talk about the music of the men, that is even more so because it was never even staged, right? So the boys have absolutely zero interest in learning those songs because there is no opportunity there at all, right? So we'll teach Vikram to sing.
विक्रम देखो इतना अच्छा वो बजाता है, जैसे तबला भी बजाता है, चंग भी बजाता है, लेकिन मेहनत नहीं करता है अभी। तो क्या मतलब है? कभी कभार अभी वो बोलता है कि मुझे शो में लेके जाओ, बट क्यों? तुझे प्रैक्टिस करना है घर पे। अगर तुझे आगे बढ़ना है तो इंटरेस्टिंग रखना पड़ेगा। अभी जैसे घर में हैं, फ्री बैठे हैं, मोबाइल हाथ में, करना कुछ नहीं है, गेम गेम गेम। आज हाँ जनरेशन, वो लोग यही सोचते हैं कि मतलब उनका माइंड यही रहता है कि बस हमारे जो पेरेंट्स हैं वो कर रहे हैं, हमें स्कूल भी भेज रहे हैं, और वो पढ़ाई भी नहीं करते हैं। सच में कोई से बच्चे हैं अभी की जनरेशन के जो बच्चे हैं, मतलब बिल्कुल भी वो नहीं सोचते हैं किसी के बारे में कि हमारे पेरेंट्स कैसे, किस वे से जाके हमें पढ़ा लिखा रहे हैं। और हमें अभी अगर चलो पढ़ाई करके हमें कुछ और भी बनना है तो वो भी तो नहीं, वो भी नहीं करते हैं। वो बस शॉप करना, अच्छा मोबाइल, अच्छे कपड़े, बस ये।
Yeah. So there's this whole group of in between also, of course, because I mean, if you compare the lifestyle of Aasha when she was young, or even her older sister or her parents, they got an upgrade, right? They are upgraded in the sense that they have a house now and all of these things. There is income. So there's enough income to send them to school, but then again, because they're in this in-between situation, kids very often get this feeling like, oh, if I become a musician, I will not have a proper career, but I also can't go to the next level, so I'll just be stuck in the middle. And I get some education, of course, it's great to have some education, but there's no future for me anywhere. So they become a little bit, like what she's calling lazy because they're playing on their phone. But if you ask me, I would say that it is a bit of a feeling of desperation that we can't grow to that next level, but we can also not stay in that musician's role because it's not a great future either, right? So there's really that in between. And I think that's also something which Rani is now really figuring out for herself, is like, I finished my high school, I really want to study, but there are a lot of challenges for her to just, like, it's not like you and me, we just went to university and it's very straightforward to do that. For them, it's not like that, because going to university has its own challenges and, so taking that next step really needs a lot of, I mean, she needs help to actually be able to properly achieve that next goal. And then the question is, can I do it? Where should I do it? How should I do it? Can I combine it with my dance? Because now she's also into dancing. Of course, she likes to dance now. So how can that combination happen? And that is really, really, really very, very challenging. Very challenging. It's not as straightforward as we would assume it to be. So we had a lot of conversations.
So if anyone has any questions to pose to Aasha, we can take, we're just about at time, but if there's any question or comment, Erica mentioned she's been searching for song translations. I assume you were talking about Kalbeliya songs. We actually just had a singing class today with Aasha, and if you signed up for the online part of this festival, we have classes every day. On the last day is a singing class with Aasha, and everyone will get the translation of the songs. So she's translated 3 songs and she's teaching that, so we can share that, the translation.
So, Colina, can I ask you, how was your experience translating that song with Aasha?
It was funny.
Yeah, Okay.
Actually, at that moment, there were 10 Langa living in my living room. So it became a big discussion sometimes with Langa, Kalbeliya. Then we had some other musician come by. And then lady was cooking. She speaks Marwari and Hindi. So then it was going from Marwari to Hindi, Hindi to English, English back to Marwari. So it was... I think that process is so amazing because it's one word just opens up, like Asha, this word in Songadali. So in Punalo, there's
Punalo last part of like Songadali is like बकरी सब जो बकरी का वो होता है ना, बकरी वगैरह सब पशु पक्षी, जैसे कि भाई मेरे घर में ये एवड़ है, आप तो गए हो मंगनियारों के घर में कितने बकरी रहते हैं, तो उसके बारे में बोला कि भाई ये सौंगड़ली होती है. जो पुनलो था ना, तो पुनलो जिस वक्त वो जा रहा था ना परदेश, तो उसकी जो घर के जो मतलब फीलिंग स्टार्ट हो गई थी पहले. अभी हम लोग क्या है कि वीडियो कॉल पे बात कर रहे हैं, फ़ोन से बात कर रहे हैं, तो कोई बात नहीं. पहले जो हमारे कोई बाहर जाता था ना, तभी भी उसका स्वागत करके भेजते थे, फूल माला वगैरह पहना के, और रोते थे. हकीकत में पूरा गांव इकट्ठा होकर रोता था कि भी ये बाहर जा रही है 6 महीने के लिए या 5 महीने के लिए, फिर वो जब वापस आते हैं तभी भी रोते थे. तो वो फीलिंग पहले से स्टार्ट हो जाती थी कि हरे के पुण्य ले रियावे नी बिला ले रियावे. तो वो जाने से पहले ही वो स्टार्ट उसकी फीलिंग हो गई है, इमोशन स्टार्ट हो जाते हैं उसको लेके. मतलब हम लोग डिस्कस कर रहे थे, खूब हंसे भी हैं, मतलब काफी सारे वो जो वर्ड्स थे कि ये वर्ड ऐसे कैसे हो गया, ये ऐसे कैसे हो गया, इस तरीके से.
So translation is not so easy, right, with these songs. I mean, if you really want to be accurate, it's quite complicated. It's quite complicated because the vocabulary is also referring to things that were there in the past, but you can't really you need a lot of context.
That's the thing. This word that came up, this was like my favorite word of the whole process. Sangadali is like, so she was just describing in Punalo in the song, it's like the wife is singing, my Punalo is leaving and he's going to a foreign country, and so she's starting to feel sad. And then the mother is doing puja, like, okay, have a safe trip and bye-bye. And then finally, in the last verse, she shared 4 verses. So the last one is that all the animals of the house are also feeling sad. So all the bakri, all the goats, and all the animals of the house, because this is the point, is like back in the day, every house had animals for milk and so this old lifestyle that even the song says, even all the animals, they're going over the horizon and feeling so sad because they miss Punalo. So it's like in these songs, this connection to nature, this connection to this old way of life, like, you know, you have to really stretch your imagination into this way of life before. So it's not just a simple translation, it's also, you know, this active imagination as well.
Yeah. So yeah, people ask, like, can we make translations of this song? Like, imagine we would subtitle Aasha's videos in English. It would be very funny. It would not work because people wouldn't understand. If you do like a subtitle way of translation, people would not be able to understand. You need a context and explanation, and then even like literal translation is very difficult. Because that word that you're mentioning, it's like a flock of animal or something, but you can't really you can't put it there because it doesn't make any sense if you do that literal translation. So yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's also says a lot about, you know, these songs were never written. These songs were created and passed on when people had a lot of time. So much time, like sitting around a fire or sitting around women stitching, or, you know, who knows how they made this song, but they had so much time and no mobile phone, no television, no cinema, so much time and imagination. But I think anyway, for me, like even if not knowing the word or knowing the word, like once we finally translated some things, it's like, yeah, I could feel that in the song, you know, that there's this like very nostalgia in Kalbeliya songs. I didn't grow up hearing the songs, but I always feel so nostalgic when I hear them, like this.
Yeah. But this you know, separation is a very, very common topic in all of the songs, in all of the repertoire.
Yeah.
Yeah. It comes back very regularly. I would love, Aasha, you should make one new version of Kundulo. which fits today's context.
With new words, you mean?
New words, yeah. That would be interesting, no? A new composition.
Like new words, like a new modern.
आपके पास अभी बकरी है नहीं ना आशा? आशा, आपके पास बकरी है? नहीं ना? ओके, लेकिन आप गांव में रहती है ना? आपकी वो जो अभी जिंदगी है वो बहुत अलग है ना? तो गाना भी कंपोज कर सकती है?
करती हूँ ना मैं कंपोज, करती हूँ ना काफी। मैंने खुद ने भी गाने बनाए हैं, जैसे कुछ गाने में खुद बनाए हैं। मैंने खुद ने लिरिक्स लिखी हैं फीलिंग के साथ कि उस गाने को भी, जैसे 3-4 ऐसे गाने मैंने बनाए, अभी तक मैंने रिकॉर्ड नहीं किए हैं, वो मेरी सेल्फ से मैंने बनाए हैं।
मैंने सुना भी नहीं।
बहुत जल्दी उसको लेके आऊंगी यूट्यूब पे और आप लोग सुनोगे।
Next festival that Kalina organizes, Heartbeat of Rajasthan.
New
song of Aasha in a contemporary context.
So if anyone has a question, no questions, very quiet audience today. Okay, well, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Ayla, also for just now translating and for the conversation. And
Kalina, please keep on doing this. I can't because I have too many things to do, but I'm really very glad that this happens because it's very necessary.
We all have to carry something, no? So
yeah, I'm happy to
I'll carry this one. You carry the papers.
Yeah.
You make the new song.
Exactly.
We have to do something new things, make good puja, and after somebody is going out.
We're all there to support you, but we need a leader there always has to be a leader in everything, somebody who brings us all together, and you did that, so that's great.
Thank you. So I really appreciate the people, all of you, for showing up, because really it was my dream and I didn't know if it was going to happen. But this dream is just to create a platform to grow all these arts. I mean, the arts within Rajasthan. The focus of this year's festival is around Women's Day. Tomorrow we have our big stage performance, and we have 30 artists performing on stage, almost all of them women, except Aasha's father, and drummer here or there, but
musicians, yeah. 5 musicians.
All men. Okay.
5 male and 4 or 5. Nandini, 6 females.
6 females. At least the women outweigh the men. And that was the vision of the festival, that usually women kind of take the back seat, and all of the cultural festivals in Rajasthan are very, it's the men who are presenting culture. So this was about the powerful, talented women and young women, so many generations of women, from classical to folk dance, from Kalbeliya dance to Kalbeliya song. And this is just our first year, so we hope that this grows, but it takes so much support and people, attending and sharing their experience. So we hope to get funding from the government right now we have funding from Pushkar government, which is amazing. They're sponsoring the stage for tomorrow, and we hope next year to get state level sponsorship and to just have this platform to present the arts of Rajasthan, not just in Rajasthan, but also, to the world, because that was important for me, that there was a lot of the festival was online so that people from all over the world could participate and show their interest and support, because it's very encouraging for Rajasthani artists to have international students, but also because there are so many international performers, especially of Kalbeliya. It seems to be the popular dance to pick up while visiting Rajasthan, and that we also have this responsibility to kind of know what we're representing and to keep coming back to the source. So I hope that this festival can serve as a very positive platform, that we can collaborate rather than feeling any kind of competition within this field, but rather we come together and share our resources and share our research and share our love for this culture, this music and this dance, and the practitioners who are sustaining it. So thank you all for joining, and I hope your heart beats in Rajasthan too. My heart is full from just all the beautiful words today, and why my heart beats in Rajasthan is that, like, if I had to pick one word to describe Rajasthani art, dance, music, it's joy. And we need, as artists, we have to uplift this very dark world. We have to uplift, so that joy is healing, and that joy is positive energy, and thanks to the culture who preserved that. So I hope that we continue for many, many more rounds of this festival. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Aasha, for being here.
Thank you to all of you, and thank you.
Will you record the performance also, or no?
Yeah, we'll record it. It's too much pressure to stream it live, but we have videographers. We will film it, and we will absolutely put it out there. I will also share this conference in a YouTube link later, and everyone has access to the recording. So yeah, we want to get it out there.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Shubhratri. Thank you, Rani. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sej.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.